Today we are going to introduce you to throwing on the wheel. Throwing on the wheel is where you take some clay, you put it in the center of the potter's wheel and you center it, make a piece of ceramics work. So to get started, what you need to do is get some materials. You need a blue bucket, a needle tool, a sculpting tool, a rib, and a sponge. Once you have that, then you need to get your body in position. To get your body in position, you're going to want to push yourself close so that your legs are actually hugging the sides of the pan, and your legs are going straight down from there. So you've got a 90-degree angle with your ankles straight below your knees. Part of why you want to do this is you want to be as stable as possible because it's a little bit more difficult than it looks like it's going to be to throw on the wheel. To get your arms in position, you want to actually push your elbows out to the sides and then slide them up your legs just a little bit above your knees, but on the actual leg, because you want some stability. You want it to be stable, but you need a little bit of flexibility. If your elbows are in too tight, you don't have the room for the clay to move around. So you want to be stable, and it's as if your arm is sort of attached to the top of your leg while you're doing this. To turn on the power, you're going to hit the power switch, and all of our wheels can work for right-handed people. If you're left-handed, you want to make sure you find one with a flat panel so you can check, you can adjust that and change it for right or left-handed. And you're going to have it go counterclockwise if you're right-handed and clockwise if you're left-handed. The light's on if you're right-handed and the light is off if you're left-handed. Now that you have your wheel on, you want to use the foot pedal, which you'll see is on one of the boxes instead of on the ground. Some people will use their foot on the wheel, but we find it gives you more stability if you have both feet flat on the ground and you actually just set the foot pedal at a stable rate. So you're going to adjust that pedal to the speed you want. Now that you're in position, you're ready to actually start throwing. So you're going to take your ball of clay, you're going to put a little water on the bottom of it so it'll stick to the wheel, and then you're actually going to throw it down in the center of the wheel. This is where the fun begins. Now you need to center your clay. You're going to start with wet hands, and you're in your power position where you're stable. You're going to put your hands to the sides of the clay and squeeze it up with your wet hands, and then you're going to place one hand on top of the other and push it down. You're going to go back and forth doing this several times with this squeezing it up and pushing it down, and this will center your clay. Now that your clay is centered, you need to make a hole in your clay. What you're going to do is you're going to put both hands to the sides of the clay, get yourself really stable. You're not pressing in at this point. You're going to put both thumbs together and press down into the clay with your thumbs. You've got to keep it wet, so add water if you need to. And you're going to try to press down until you're about 3/8 of an inch from the bottom. We'll check this to make sure at the end. To measure the thickness of the base of your pot, you're going to take your needle tool. You're going to press it in the center of the pot all the way down so it hits the wheel head. You're going to slide your index finger down the tip of that needle tool until it hits the bottom of the clay. And you're going to hold it there, pull the needle tool out, and the distance that you're measuring is from the tip of the needle to the tip of your finger, and that space is going to be the thickness of what your pot is. The goal is for your pot to have a 3/8 inch base. If it's thicker than that, you're going to need to push down a little bit farther to remove that. And if it's too thin, we'll get to that later. Now that you have the hole in the middle of your clay, it's time to open up the sides of your bowl. What you're going to do is take your non-dominant hand and open it up, and then take your dominant hand and slide those fingers through across like this. Anytime you're working on the wheel, your hands need to be wet, so make sure they're wet while you're doing this. And then you're going to slide them over the side of your bowl with the fingers from the dominant hand on the inside of the bowl, and you're going slowly, and slowly you start using pressure to pull those walls out. Now that you've opened up the walls of your pot, it's time to raise them up. This is called passing. So what you're going to do is take your non-dominant hand with your index finger, and probably your middle finger too, on the inside of the pot with your thumb on the outside of the pot. You're going to take your dominant hand with a sponge and place that sponge just under your thumb. You're going to squeeze and slowly raise your hand up, squeezing, and that will pull the sides of those walls up. That's called passing. Now that you've made your first pass, you're going to continue doing this several times over and over. And each time you want to make sure that you're squeezing with the same pressure all the way up and the fingers are the same distance apart each time. You're going to keep doing this until your pot breaks. The reason we're going to have you break your bowl the first time is not to be mean and cruel to you, but so that you learn the limits of your clay. Once you have a pot that you really want to keep, then what you need to do is get rid of some of that excess clay that's at the base of the pot before you can remove it from the wheel. So you'll take one of the sculpting tools and you'll just run a little groove along the edge of the base. After you've made the groove, stop the wheel. Make a puddle of water on the opposite of the pot from you. Take your wire tools and starting at the pot that's opposite you, hold them tight, as tight to the wheel head as you can, and drag them towards you. Then you can remove your pot from the wheel head. To remove your pot or bowl from the wheel, you need to have your lifters and a project board. You slide the lifters underneath the pot, both at the same time, going towards the center, lift it up, and place it on the project board. Pull the lifters out. Good. Now that your project has been removed from the wheel, you're probably going to need a couple of days before you can trim it. So you want to cover it with plastic. You don't need to spray it down, but just cover it with that plastic on the project board and leave it for a couple days, and then you can get to trimming. There is actually one more thing that you have to do. As with any ceramics project, you need to clean up after you're done. But when you're working on the wheel, there are a couple of extra steps you have to take. You'll be using your rib tool to scrape off any clay from the wheel head and any other big mucky bits of clay and put those in the recycling bucket. Then you use the large sponge to sponge off the wheel head and sop up any water that's around there. Clean out the pan, and then you actually take the pan apart. To pull the pan apart, you press down on the two tabs that are on the side and then just pull the two pieces in opposite directions. You're going to carry those over to the sink and rinse and sponge it out until it's clean, and then put it back together at the wheel after your whole work area is all sponged down. And then of course you're going to clean and put away all the tools you've used. Then you're actually done for the day.